everyone. Today we're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, safety and tools and equipment in the makerspace. So it's really important not only for maintaining the safety in your makerspace, but also maintaining your tools and equipment that we're very purposeful and intentional about managing our space. And so to borrow from the industry a little bit, you should be thinking about things like the 5S method, sort, set, shine, standardize, sustain, and then they add an S for safety, which is of course important. So the picture here on your right side is a really nicely done work area where everything is organized. I would probably even go as far, especially in a classroom setting, as to label almost everything. But it's just really important not only to stay organized for safety reasons, but then for managing the space in terms of, okay, I started the day with 6 hammers. I need to make sure I end the day with 6 hammers. So that organization piece and then managing the space as well are both really important concepts. So we're going to jump into a little bit of that discussion today on safety and equipment. So we did share with you some common makerspace and workshop rules. It's pretty important, in addition to all the fun things that go on in the makerspace, to make sure that we're also doing our due diligence in sharing and posting and communicating rules that are good practice within the makerspace environment. So, and if you've taught a science class, some of these are going to be similar. If you've worked, like I said, in industrial or manufacturing settings, some of this stuff is going to sound familiar. But just make sure you're using the right tool for the right job, making sure we know what happens in the event of a fire. Make sure that all accidents and injuries are reported immediately to the maker manager or the teacher that is in charge of that space at that time. And nobody loves the cleanup process, but again, it's really crucial in terms of managing the space and making sure that everything is in good working order, and as good or better than when you found it is ideal when oftentimes maker spaces are shared spaces. So those are just some basic things that we wanted to share with you in this part of the course. But this is an activity we typically do in the makerspace we have here at our location. And I think it might even be a good activity to do with your staff and maybe even your students, is we actually kind of categorize or have them categorize on red, yellow, and green. So red would be something to be observed in the space that could be unsafe to use without proper supervision or training. Whereas yellow, training is necessary and supervision is needed, whereas green is, minimal to no training necessary and not really any supervision required to use that. And then what we like to do is actually, give green and yellow and red flags to folks to literally go around the space and start flagging pieces of equipment that they would identify as red or yellow or green. And we then, of course, after that little activity, come back together for a discussion of, well, why did you mark the laser red? Or why did you mark the 3D printer as a yellow? And so then we can have that discussion of why we think those pieces of equipment justify those particular classifications of red, yellow, or green. So some things that you should be considering with safety in the makerspace are some of the following questions. How do you handle safety within your makerspace? Are we putting up posters? Do we have safety contracts? Do we have, before we enter the makerspace, we have to complete XYZ training? How are you practicing safety within your makerspace? And again, that should be an intentional part of the discussion. Are all tools and equipment visible and accessible to students? If the students don't know it's there, then it's not really very useful. So, I think of a toolbox, you have to actually walk over and open it and peruse through it to see what's there and available to you. But, again, having things very neatly arranged and potentially labeled would go a long way in helping folks know what they have available to them. What are some potential risks, challenges, or dangers for certain pieces of equipment? Some things are very harmless, But even, an X-Acto knife or a box cutter can be dangerous if not used in a safe manner. So, things that may not necessarily catch your attention as something that could pose a safety risk could still be problematic. So just make sure that we're kind of anticipating what those risks and challenges and dangers might be in an attempt to, reduce them at all costs. So can students use everything in the Makerspace? Is it accessible? And if it's not, why is that? And is there a way to make it more accessible? Maybe not. Maybe you do only want staff running the laser cutter, depending on the age of your students. So, those are conversations that you're going to want to have with your team and administrators regarding the equipment in the space. How are safety precautions shared with others? Again, are there posters in the room? Is there a safety checklist? Is there a procedure in place in the event of an accident or injury? How are we communicating that information with others? So that's both staff and students. How do you handle broken equipment? It is going to happen, unfortunately. Hopefully with larger equipment, you might have a repair contract with First Makerspace where we can come in and assist you with that. But with wear and tear and time, some equipment does fall in ill repair. And so we do have to be aware of that, because if the equipment isn't performing like it should, then it may need to be repaired or replaced depending on what it is. So those are all things to consider regarding safety in the Makerspace. And then your challenge for this particular section of the program is to create a safety poster. And I will leave that up to you in terms of, do you want to break out the poster board or the butcher paper and physically make a sign that you're proud of and want to actually use in your space? Or you can also use something digital like Canva or Adobe, whatever you're comfortable with, and you can make a digital version of that poster with the idea, hopefully, that you print it eventually and again display it in your space. But determine a particular piece of equipment to focus on. So look around your space, or if you don't have your Makerspace yet, or you don't have a Makerspace, consider pieces of equipment that are commonly found in a Makerspace: a 3D printer, a laser engraver and cutter. It could be something as simple as a hot glue gun if you determine that. So think about a specific piece of equipment and what are the concerns and information regarding safety of that piece of equipment and what you're going to include on your poster. And so again, choose how you want to design that poster. Pretty flexible there. It could even be a PowerPoint, but we're going to ask, of course, that you share that on the next section. There is a place to upload your whatever it is, whether it's a picture of your physical poster or a JPEG or a PDF of your digital design. That is entirely up to you. I did want to kind of share some examples. If you see the common Makerspace rules and Makerspace safety signs and how to build a safe Makerspace at the bottom, those are all links. So I just briefly want to look at some of the sign examples with you, and so that you kind of have an idea of what some posters might look like and some of the information that you might want to include. These would all be ideas that you might want to maybe get some ideas to inspire what your poster might look like. So there are several examples of what this could look like. We also want to share with you that we have on Teachers Pay Teachers a safety poster bundle. Not that your safety poster isn't amazing, because I'm sure it is, but we did take almost every piece of equipment that we offer from First Makerspace, and we made a safety poster designed around that particular thing. So what are the, what's the level of risk with that particular piece of equipment? And then specifically, what is the risk? So, is it hot? Is it moving parts? Is it sharp? Those sorts of things. And that can be found on our Teachers Pay Teachers. So again, I know safety and equipment isn't necessarily the most exciting and glamorous topic in the world, but it's nonetheless, it's very important, especially when you might have 30 bodies running around in your space, and making sure that you do your due diligence to make sure that you're operating and maintaining a safe Makerspace. So this has been Megan Ewing, and I appreciate your time, and I look forward to our next video.